I'm going to ask, we've got 3 students who have volunteered to come and talk about how they found their research positions and what a typical day is for them. And then if you have questions for the students, please feel free to ask. So, Agilda, Dill, Macy, do you want to come on up and kind of pass this amongst yourselves?
So I'm Macy. I'm a senior in MCB and I'm in honors concentration. I've been in my lab since spring semester of my sophomore year. To find it, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had contacted a couple PIs to see if I could get in their labs. One of them interviewed me and then never answered me if I had the position. I did not, apparently. But to get in the lab I'm actually in, my advisor had said she knew of someone looking for an undergraduate researcher. So I looked it up. It's in neuroscience. That wasn't really my thing, but there was tissue processing and that seemed cool. So I emailed him. I didn't make one of the profiles. I didn't know it existed because I never came to one of these. But emailed him, went in, interviewed, and I got the position. I was doing tissue processing essentially for a year and about 3 semesters. I was assisting my graduate student. Now I have my own project and I still work with my graduate student. He oversees most of my work, but I'm involved more by myself with just little input from my PI in undergrad, or grad. I'm in the undergrad.
Hi guys, I'm Matilda. I actually do research in a non-MCB lab. I'm a junior and I've been at the Brain and Cognition Lab at the Beckman Institute for 3 semesters now. Basically, how I found it was I went to the Beckman Institute website and I believe there's like a research tab there and then for undergraduate research, and I just looked at all the opportunities there. I emailed the people that I was interested in, got an interview, and then now I'm in the lab. Basically, I've worked on many different projects in this lab. The most recent project was looking at the difference in brain activity between patients with traumatic brain injury and patients without traumatic brain injury. So basically they go into an MRI and then the results get sent to me, and then I look at basically like their MRI results and see what the difference is between like their frontal lobe, their parietal bone, and all that. I'm sure you guys have learned about the brain in some of your classes. But yeah, I loved it. I've learned a lot, and I'm so grateful for the experience.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As Kai mentioned, I'm Patil. I work in Kai's lab. And for starters, how I got involved in the lab. So I say at the beginning of my sophomore year, one of my close friends got worked in a lab, and I was curious. I was like, how can I get involved? So after taking MCB 150, I knew Brad Murphins was a peer advisor, so I went and talked to him, and I want to get interested in research, and he says, well, that's great because undergrads have the privilege here at the University of Illinois to get involved. And he directed me to the MCB directory, and he told me to send a bunch of professors emails, and he guided me in how I should word my email, how I should show I'm interested. And then after many different emailing different professors, I got in touch with Kai, and Kai offered me a position. One thing that I would say is that I found was really important when considering doing lab work, or considering a lab, is finding a lab that you're really, which contains material that you're really passionate about. There's many different labs out there, but it's not a matter of just joining the lab, it's a matter of doing something that you're really passionate about. In fact, Kai was probably like the 3rd person that emailed me back saying that I got accepted, but it was his lab that I chose because his work with optogenetics and cell signaling was something that I was very passionate about. In terms of like a typical day, basically my week starts off by doing basic bench work and making sure everything's stocked up. I'm responsible for filling up media, making sure is everything ready for the week for any experiments, any transformations or any experiments such as that. And then I consult the grad student I work with in terms of what, if he needs anything done for me. Other than that, then I begin my own project. As Kai mentioned, I'm working on a 3D printing project, so I've been working on that project lately. And that goes throughout the week, and then once every Thursday we have a weekly meeting where we discuss the progress of each of us make, as well as do a small presentation on a literature-based review of our article. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that's a quick overview of how they found their research and what they're doing. These guys have all been doing research for about 3 semesters, so some of them started when they were sophomores. I didn't get a feel earlier. How many of you are freshmen? Good job. I'm going to find out more. Sophomores? Those are juniors? Seniors? Okay. All right. So those of you who are freshmen and sophomores, for sure, need to be thinking about how to get started at a young, when you haven't taken a lot of our lab classes yet. So what year were you guys when you started? Were you all sophomores? Yeah. Okay, so sophomore year is a good year to start. Junior year is a good year to start. Freshman year, there are some faculty who will take freshmen in their labs. They like to teach you from the very beginning before you learn what they consider to be bad habits. So don't count yourself out as a freshman. But go ahead and ask these guys any questions you might have.
You're an MCB major?
Yes.
So in your sophomore year, when you started working in labs, how did you manage organic chemistry and all this other classes with working in the lab?
So, to specify, when I said started sophomore year, I was towards the end of my sophomore year, so I was mostly done with my recs, but still then I was coming in and learning some basic techniques. In terms of that, at the beginning, your PI, even though as very committed, as I said, they're very flexible because they want you to learn what to teach you. And so what is done, if once you join the lab, is you create a schedule with the grad student you're working with, and you guys figure out a time when you can meet, and you just stick to that. And slowly by slowly, if you maintain that consistency, you'll be caught up very soon.
Someone else have a question? Yeah.
So as I said, at least I think you said, I was really behind. I didn't know what I was doing. So I got in contact with Dr. Yano during, I think it was January of the spring semester that I started. And it was early February that I actually did start. So I was one of the lucky ones that did get to sign up for 290 after the drop deadline. But it was a hassle, and I don't recommend it. But even, like, it is a lot better to get it early, but if you can't find anything early, don't get too discouraged. If people say no, don't get discouraged. If you get into something you don't like, don't get discouraged. I love neuroscience now, so just try hard, keep your head up.
I do want to just say one more thing about the deadlines. If for some reason you missed the deadline, but you've interacted with a faculty member who says that you can come into their lab, what you might be able to do is spend a semester sort of volunteering your time reading papers and getting the background information knowledge, and then the next semester or the next summer you can start and actually be ready to do the research. So don't just give up completely and say, well, I missed the deadline, so now I can't do it. There are ways to work around that and still get the experience that semester.
And also, one more thing in terms of applying is, I guess, also the time to apply. So, like applying, I say, like in the middle of the semester would not be ideal, considering that most labs have already started. They already know their projects, and most labs will likely turn you down. But I say, from what I've heard, and what I've seen also, is that if you apply closer to the end of the semester, at the end of the year, you have a higher probability of getting into a lab, because those are transition points for grad students or undergrads who are leaving labs, and there's some vacancies. So consider also timing as an important element when applying. And always, yeah, just keep your head up. There's some professors that are going to reject you, and some professors say that we're thankful for your applying, but there's not enough space. There's going to be a lab out there. You just got to keep trying.
If you start in the summer, I would say, just from my experience, your chances of getting started in a lab are better. So I know that means devoting a summer here, but a lot of faculty really like you just start in the summer, as Dr. Blanky was saying, you can get a lot done. A lot of work can get done. You can really learn the material quickly. So if you can't find anything for the spring semester, then next summer, if you're able to stay, that's a really good time to get started. Yeah. Over winter break. My guess is that you're not going to be able to start over winter break. Many times, faculty and people in their lab might be taking holiday during that time. If they are there, there's probably not as many grad students around to help with things. And that would be before the deadline to add the course. Doesn't mean that you couldn't start doing reading and things like that. So, I mean, if you find a faculty member who's going to be around, somebody's going to be in lab, and you're here during winter break and available, sure, you can start working then. But you won't be able to earn the course credit until spring. I'm sorry? Summer break? So summer break is a really good time to start doing research. You can get a lot done during summer break. And you can register up until the 7th day of summer session 2 if you're in the summer. What other questions do you all have?
Junior faculty, we also need to prepare teaching. That's usually, for me, it will be in the winter break, because starting in January, we'll start teaching. But as Joe mentioned, at the end of the year, it's a good time for me to at least ask around, because that's the transition time for the lab. Like for now, I don't really have any openings, but then next year, I know I will have, because undergraduate students will graduate. But then it doesn't really hurt to contact them. You just need to consider their timing.
Okay, so the question was about the GPA suggestion. It's basically a suggestion. We don't keep stats on what the GPAs are of students who get into the lab. There are some professors who won't even ask you what your GPA is. Some will, some won't. From an academic advisor standpoint, we suggest that because we don't want you to put all of your efforts into research and then flunk out of your classes. Because the research experience you get isn't going to be worth a whole lot if you don't finish your degree, right? So it's not a hard and fast rule to have a 3.0, it's just a suggestion, and some faculty care about it way more than others. Other questions? Okay, I just have 2 more slides. I'm going to let our students sit down. If you guys have to leave, you can, but thank you so much for sharing your stories. If you have questions for the students, you can look them up. I've got their names up here, and they're willing to answer questions for you. And at the end, anybody who's left can stay and ask questions. I wanted to have just one quick slide on graduation with distinction. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this could be a whole presentation in and of itself. But Dr. Blanky mentioned, and I think Dr. Zhang mentioned also, students writing a senior thesis, culminating their research. And if you write a senior thesis and your GPA is 3.25 or above, so that's where the GPA really comes in, is if you want to earn distinction, then you're eligible for distinction. There are 3 levels of distinction: distinction, high distinction, and highest. Each one has a different GPA requirement, each one has a different requirement for what you have to do, but the prerequisite for all of those is that you've done MCB 290 for at least 2 semesters in the same lab for a minimum of 2 credit hours. And then in your last semester on campus, you would register for MCB 492, which is senior thesis. You would write a thesis. Most levels of distinction also require that you do a poster presentation. So Dr. Zhang was mentioning that it's really important that you learn how to present in lab meeting. You will probably be asked to submit, to do a poster presentation at the Undergraduate Research Symposium that happens every April, or maybe going to a conference with your lab mates to do that. So there is a whole page of this on our website if you want more information. You got to get started in MCB 290 or Biochem 290 first, but I did want you to know that if you stick with it, there is a chance to do distinction. And then just to wrap everything up, reminder that you earn course credit for doing this research experience. You want to start early looking for research because at least the 2 faculty we talked to today prefer that you can devote at least 2 years. Many faculty will say the minimum they will take you for is 2 semesters. And that's just because it takes at least a semester for you to learn the material and get ready to do the actual work in lab. My final time of saying how important it is for you to know what the expectations of your faculty are. You are getting a grade for this, so you don't want to be surprised by that at the end. And then most importantly, have fun and learn. One of the reasons you came to University of Illinois most likely is because of our research opportunities. That is one of the greatest benefits that you have. Our faculty are eager to teach you and have them in your lab, so we really hope that you'll find a position that works for you. And I'll take any last minute questions. All right, thanks for hanging in with me.